Hey, I'm Everett, and this is the first episode of I'm doing my best, so please don't yell at me. Today I'm working on my 2004 Pontiac GTO, aka Hold the Monero, aka Buick something in South Africa? I don't know. We spit a transmission gasket out. It's leaking trans fluid all over my driveway, and that's a problem. The first step to working on cars, as anyone will tell you, is to stay hydrated. We've got a new Glarus flavor. Never been. Probably would like it. We're using a Coronado Beach opener. Cars bring us all together. I parked the car on these nifty little ramps I made. I learned the trick from Mighty Car Mods. They just use 2x6s and kind of layered them like that. And you can just drive right up them and they don't kick out or nothing. It's perfect. I have to do that because I still fit a foot in there. But we're pretty low. 2 fingers. So even though we're in P for don't go anywhere, and we have the parking brake up for really don't go anywhere, still gonna put a piece of wood back here for safety. A lot of guys and girls don't like wearing gloves for some reason. I don't get it. A lot of these chemicals will give you cancer. So, glove up. Make sure you get them 2 sizes too small too. So to reiterate, I have to use those ramps in order to get my jack under there, even without this piece of wood, which I highly suggest everyone use. It's got a nice groove there, it won't slip. The jack won't fit under the car otherwise, it's too low. So I turn that little wood block sideways and I aim for those 2 bolts at the back of the skid pan here. And the bolt heads will actually bite into that wood and keep it from slipping off, which I feel like is a whole lot safer than just leaky transmission and oil in between metal on metal. So that's what I do. Haven't died yet. Feel free to let me know if it's wrong though. I'm sure it is. I like to use these heavy-duty truck jack stands, mainly because this car is 3,800 pounds, and also I don't have to bring them up at all, so there's no chance of them slamming down and squishing me under there. I mean, I'm a pretty big guy, so. I've got 3 big wet spots from the transmission just from sitting overnight. This whole area I brake cleaned off just to check how much it was leaking. I'm glad I did. That one back there you can't really see, but it's pretty dark. You can see the culprit right there. The old cork gasket's all pushed out right there. That's where I'm getting the majority of my leak from, I'm sure. You know, it's coming from other places too, but that's mainly what we're after today. Well, that never happens. I guess the right size on the first try. 13 mil for anyone playing along at home. Hey. Just lower these front ones a couple turns. And then we'll do all the side ones out. Okay, that one's staying in. You get the idea. I'm leaving these ones in so the pan will tilt back and pour into there is the dream. It's working! It's working! Oh, it smells so bad. It's mainly coming out of the back there, not the front, which was what we wanted. That's good. Well, I made a mess under the car getting it off, but inside the pan looks good. This is just magnet here. It's got some crap on it. It's not too bad. There's no chunks anywhere. All this dirt in here is just from me stirring that or from the outside of the pan. I did notice there's a lot of scratches on this though. So I wonder if this pan's been off and maybe dragged across the surface. Maybe somebody who had this before me didn't love it like I do. So, never doing any transmission stuff before besides taking one out and replacing a clutch. Basically just changing the filter, the gasket, and then this accumulator, I guess on the 4L60Es, has a little plastic spike there. We're going to replace it with this nice little upgraded metal one, so hopefully it doesn't break. It's day 2. I'm back. You can tell it's day 2. I've changed my clothes. They fit me now. That's good. It's not 1,000,000 degrees. That's also good. I'm going to get under there cleaned up, and then we're going to try and get the old accumulator out and see if anybody's put any other goodies in there. How did I do that without spilling a drop? I'm the greatest. That one says oil, or this is an oil container. It'll be alright. Alright, I'm going to do my best down here. But this is the filter we're replacing. This is the old accumulator here. It looks like there's 3. I hope there's 3. There's a couple 10mm bolts holding it on. That should be no big deal. I don't really know automatic transmissions too well, so I'm going to say that everything else is stock. This is the gasket I was talking about that looks aftermarket. It looks like someone's been in here. The fluid was kind of dark looking at it. It's not slipping or anything crazy, but we'll see. Everybody always says, don't replace your trans fluid because then that's when problems happen. But I don't believe that for a minute. I think it helps. But we'll see. 10 mil, baby. So there's this one I just did. There's one down here, and there's one more over here. Here's the old accumulator pump. Kind of got some gasket residue on there. So I hope that doesn't mean I need a valve body gasket now, but it probably does. And here's the new one. I mean, they're pretty similar, so almost certain I got the right part. Whoa! She's a squirter. Where do I get this part now? This one looks metal, like it's been upgraded. They have the same part number. This has already been done. I didn't need to do this. And now I probably need a valve body gasket. God damn it. Right there. I gotta take the whole fucking valve body off now. Because of right there. Ugh. Well, back to the front of the transmission, it looks like this big filter assembly just pulls out of there. I mean, it's real loose. That bolt doesn't hold anything in. I think you just pull it out now. Yep, and then you spill it everywhere. Good one. Well, that's a pretty uneventful end to day 2, but I can't really put it back together with that gasket being ripped like that, and I have to watch like 10 YouTube videos now to figure out how to get that valve assembly off, that big thing that's bolted to the bottom of the transmission. So I'm pretty sure there's check balls in there, and if I lose those, then I could grenade the transmission or it just won't work right. So I'm gonna look up how to do that, and also I'm gonna order that and maybe get hit with the while I'm in there bug. So maybe some more stuff will be going on. We'll see. Finally back. Can you see me? Oh, there we go. Finally back. Did some research, watched some videos. Got this TransGo HD2 kit for my 4L60E, and also Corvette servo kit. Pretty sure this is the right one, but I guess we'll find out. This will go in the side of the trans, so I'll have to drop the trans. This should be able to take the valve body out, do some modifications, and get that all in. Hopefully I don't screw it up. I've never done this before, so this will be a cool sticker too. So here's the kit. It's got pretty detailed instructions. I don't really know what I'm looking at. I know you stack these up in the accumulator, I think, and this is what makes it like 1, 2, or 3 level. I don't know. All this stuff's kind of split up nice. It's got a cork gasket. I don't know that we'll use that. It's got the, you know, one of these goes between the separator plate and the trans, and the other one goes between the separator plate and the valve body. Then I think the accumulator goes over here. So that's what I tore on mine. What is this? I don't know what this is. Oh, springs. I think this is for when you like actually get into the trans from the front, the pump and all that. So I won't be doing that quite yet. Maybe someday. But for right now, definitely need this. I figured while I'm in there, do all this shit. See if it does anything. Hopefully I don't break anything. Alright, back up under the car, and we have to take that whole assembly out. And it looks pretty intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I really don't want to mess my car up. But I feel like with the instructions I have and the videos I've watched, it's a lot easier than it looks. I'm not gonna do step by step because a million people have on YouTube. I'll link the video I've watched a couple times, and I'm gonna get this out. Hopefully I don't break anything, and hopefully the next thing you see is the valve body up on the bench there. I also found out that this little hole here that the filter goes into, there's an extra piece I can't get it with my fingers, but there's an extra piece in there, so don't double them up, and don't forget it, or leave it in there if you want to reuse it. So the valve body's not out yet, and you know, it's not going well. I have 2 bolts here, pretty rounded. Probably can't see that too well. A little learning life lesson here. If you can, get the six-sided bit, or what the hell is this, socket, versus the 12-point socket. These 12 points always just destroy bolt heads in my experience. Not a lot of people making the 6-sided, and there it goes. Not a lot of people making the 6-sided nowadays, I see. Or maybe I just don't see them. I don't know. Had a couple round out, but we got them. Still plugging away. So I finally got the valve body out. And if you have a chance to pull the whole trans out instead of doing what I did, I would recommend that, because I've got so much trans fluid on my face, it's all over the ground. It's a mess. But got all the check balls, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. I thought they would stay in the trans, but I guess they just stay in here. That's good. We got all 7. It's really what I was worried about. Now I can go under there and pull the separator plate and the 2 gaskets and get fiddling with this thing. I suppose if it's already been fiddled with, I don't need to do anything, though. That'd be nice. I did strip quite a few of these bolts that hold the valve body on, so we'll have to go to the old pick and pull and borrow a couple probably here. So I was really worried about these check balls, losing them when I pulled this out, or just them going someplace weird. So what I did was I marked some of these areas with marker, and then I tipped this over and realized ATF is a detergent, so it's going to wash it all away. But luckily I took a picture too. There's only 7, so hopefully I won't screw it up. Now I'm going to move under the car and take off the separator plate and those gaskets. So I guess that thing back here is a stiffener plate, and it's just 3 8mm bolts. And then what's this called? The separator plate. This is a gasket. That's a separator plate. And then there's another gasket. This whole thing should come out, and it'll probably pee more trans fluid on me. So worst case scenario, I pulled this separator plate off. This little filter fell out, and then this little ball went plinking everywhere. So I have no idea where that goes. I have to figure that out. I haven't seen that anywhere. Hopefully, hopefully it's not left over. Somebody lost earlier when they redid it before. I'm not sure. Figure it out though. Keep moving. So I found where that number 1 check ball goes. Probably recognize this area. It's my old nemesis, the accumulator. So this is the outside hole. That's towards the front of the car, the back of the car, passenger side, driver's side. This bolt hole towards the front of the car, there's a little valley that goes into the accumulator. Not that, but right next to that. This little divot here. You got to get that ball in there somehow. I don't know how I'm going to hold it in there. Maybe some trans gel or something I'll have to pick up. But it's right kind of kitty corner. What would that be? Like driver's side back from that front bolt hole of the accumulator, if you find yourself in the same pickle. So the more I look at these 2 housings, the more I see they're different. This has a larger cavity up here. The inside is different, like that's got a little groove that goes that way. This just has a little hole up there. They seal in the same area.
So I think I'm just gonna send it. I'm gonna trust the new one. Oh, these springs are a little different too, but these pistons have the same number, this A74927B. So I mean, they gotta be the same. I'm so antsy, I don't want to screw this up. So like, these springs are shorter than these springs, the OEM springs. But we're gonna trust the new stuff that I got off eBay. So that's how you do it. These are the shims you can put in it. 1, 2, 3. 1 is just firmer shifts, 2 is very firm shifts, and 3 is for if you have a stall or like a built trans. I'm just going to do 2. My trans isn't built at all. This could be too much for it, but we'll find out. So to do that, just take the 2, put it right on the piston there, put your spring seat, bolt side up, put your springs in, and then it looks like you just put that on. Probably want to lube that seal up first though, so you don't tear it or pinch it. But yeah, so I was wrong. You use the new blue spring provided. You flip this upside down, and then you put the orange spring on there like that, and then you can install it. So that's the way to do it. I suppose you could use these springs if you want to keep it the factory way, but then I don't think you use those shims. So I'm going to do it the way TransGo told me to do it. So yeah.
So I realized I had the instructions backwards, so I've been doing everything in reverse up to this point. But before that, I got this 4th accumulator out. It was in there like this. I pulled this piston out by hand, and then I just kind of walked this with the little feet there and walked it out, and that's how I was able to get it out. I guess you what you do is you put that back in, and then you put this little yellow spring in there, and then you put it in the other way, and that's how it goes back in. And it should stay there, I hope. One thing done.
Alright, now that that 4th accumulator is done, I'm going to work on the valve body here. It looks like you just kind of work around in a couple of steps, and like the instructions are really good, surprisingly. TransGo, I feel like, did a really great job, where someone like me, who's never done something like this, can just kind of pick it up and do it. So, I mean, of course, knock on wood that I didn't screw something up and my car's on the side of the road right now, but you know, it's pretty good so far. I'm just going to kind of breeze through this finally, and if I think of any tips or anything, I'll chime in. Other than that, we'll just snap to it being done, I guess. So my first issue with the kit is next to this little solenoid, there's this valve assembly here, and you're supposed to take this spring out and replace it with a tightly wound purple spring. It should be in here. This spring was in here. It is very much not purple anywhere, but I'm pretty sure that's the one I need. It's kind of annoying that even the directions there, install tight wound purple spring, and it's not purple. So I hope I'm doing the right spring. I'm pretty sure I am, but see. So the next thing I found, we're working on this valve that runs along here, and you can kind of see it. I galled up that a little bit, trying to get this retainer out. I've just been using this tiny screwdriver this entire time. But yeah, kind of just be careful, I guess. I don't think that's going to affect anything. I feel like the surface area is still large enough that it's not going to create a leak. But this was kind of all the way to one side, and then I just got this in between the wall and that, and then just kind of pulled it back here and was able to lift it up. So hope that helps. So I guess you shouldn't skip ahead, because I got to step 4 here on page 2, and it has to do with your accumulator spring for the I guess you have to circle you have to figure out which piston you have in step 1 when you're doing the Corvette servo. So now I have to drop my transmission cross member and drop the transmission a little bit so I can get to the side of that. It looks like it's on the passenger side, so that's nice. I have less crap over there, but I guess I get to do that now.
Why won't you come out? Let's try something else.
Well, this just turned into a bigger job than I thought. For some reason I was taking off this side mid-pipe when the servo's on the other side, but now I have to take the axle back off if I want to get the mid-pipe off, and also I have to take the I also have to take the drive shaft out to drop the trans, because the drive shaft won't clear the drive shaft safety loop. You can't really see it, it's red. So yeah, I get to do all that. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. Oh well, all that stuff's easy, it's just time consuming. Well, change of plans. I can't get to that servo without taking the transmission out. For some reason it won't drop low enough. The thing should be about that long when I take it out. So like, I can get to it, but I can't take it out. But I don't know, maybe if I tried I could, but we're so far past that now. I've taken the complete exhaust out, the drive, or the, not the drive chain, the drive shaft out, and the plan is to just drop the transmission, probably pull the engine out too while we're at it, because I have a pretty bad rear main leak and an oil pan leak, and on these GTOs you can't really get to the oil pan without sketchily hanging the engine and like dropping the subframe or just taking the engine out. So I might as well just take the engine out while I'm at it. It's unfortunate, I just got this thing running and driving. I was tooling it around and it was great, but you got to keep the big picture in mind here. I have right there a set of 243 heads. They're off the 6.0 GTOs. They flow, well, they're off LS6, but they flow a lot better than the 241 heads that came factory that I have. So maybe do that, upgraded springs, maybe some roller rockers, and a cam. I already have long tubes, so that'll be rowdy. And then if I have the trans out, I might as well do the drum stuff. Might as well while I'm in there. I mean, I feel kind of defeated. This sucks, but it is what it is. I've got all the bolts in the U shape loosened. I just got to get the 2 or so up top and then loosen up the converter. The converter's baby blue. I don't know why. And then I can drop the trans. It's as simple as that, really. But I'm way beyond tired. I'm super dirty. It's time for bed. It's time to call it a day. I'll probably be back out here in a week. I don't know. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be a slow process. All right, I'm back. It's been a little while, but we've got a new game plan. So before, I said maybe we'd do heads, cam, timing, all that stuff. We're not doing any of that. I'm gonna take out the transmission, either have that gone through or try to go through it myself. I need to get to that servo so I can do the shift kit. So
Trans is coming out definitely. I think with the trans out, we're gonna lift the engine up so I can get to the, I've got a bad oil pan leak, so I'm gonna replace that gasket, do my rear main seal, and then maybe stage 2 we'll do heads, cam. I already have headers on it. That'll be further down the road. And then if I need to, I can take back the transmission up a little bit again and, you know, put a torque converter in it. We're not going to put a stall in it this time. It doesn't make sense with the stock engine and trans. But that's kind of what we're doing. I've had this conversion kit. It's like a lower end kit for LS's. I've got my oil pan, front cover, front seal, rear main seal, you know, cam plate, just everything you need. I want to say it was $100, $120. Not too bad. It's all nice Velcro stuff. I don't have a ton of time today, so we're just going to take the 2 bolts from the trans up top, get those loose, back everything out, and do the, well, we'll do the torque converter bolts first. I'll show you how to do that, but it's got a new game plan here, so let's get at it.
Fellas, ladies, zims and zers, if you have an AGM agitated glass mat battery, remember to take it out if you're not driving your car every day and put it on a tender. Otherwise, you'll be like me and you'll keep killing them because they'll keep dropping cells once they lose charge. Maybe it's Farm and Fleet brand that's not that great, but I mean, when I drive it, it's fine, so it's probably me. Just a reminder, take your AGMs out, put them on a trickle charger, then they won't die, hopefully.
So getting these torque converter bolts is proving to be, you know, not as easy as I thought, because why would it be? It's just a little cover here, goes in that little bolt hole you can see. A little 10 mil, that's fine. As soon as you try, you know, undoing those, it spins the engine, which, you know, I was anticipating. So I've got that wrench on there. It's a ratcheting 15 mil. And I've got this kind of rigged up, a breaker bar with a deep well. It's a 15/16, and I have it being held in place with my jack. And that seems to be doing the trick, but it's still, I mean, it's not fun, but that's how I'm doing it. You know, when you're by yourself, you got to kind of improvise. So, before I pull everything off, I'm just kind of going through and checking everything. This is the main harness connection here to the, I guess, the shifter for the transmission. You just, pretty simple, you just pop this little blue guy out and then you pull this down. This goes to an O2, I think, and it's pretty cooked, so we might be putting a new one in there, just splicing it in. That's fine. I'm having a hard time. There's this linkage that kind of goes all the way back here. That's the shifter, and it goes up there to the transmission into this little plastic piece. I tried taking it off here, but I felt like I was going to break that because it's only plastic, and that seems relatively expensive. Maybe I can get one at a junkyard, I don't know. But then I tried coming up here and taking off this bolt, and this is plastic too, and it's already flimsy, and this is all rusted to crap. So I'll just hit it with some PB, maybe. There we go. Get it nice and soaked, and we'll let that sit. But unfortunately, that means the transmission's not coming out tonight. But I can go around and get all the wires off and get those 2 top bolts off still, so everything will be good for next time, I guess. So I think I finally have everything undone. I got that little guy undone with a ratcheting crescent wrench. I just tied it up there. I've got everything electrical disconnected. I've got these lines to my cooler. I built enough slack into those so I can drop the trans, hopefully. There is like a little 8 mil bolt holding a harness up there, but I think there's enough slack to where I can get that out. I did notice on my bell housing, where's my light? There we go. Oh boy. So there's those 2 bolts, there's a dowel in the middle, and then further, just a little bit further around the bell housing, there's another bolt, and it was missing. So I don't think those really rattle loose, especially since all the other ones were super tight. So that, to me, that indicates that somebody else was in here. It doesn't look like anything was upgraded besides the accumulator, but once we take the servo out there, we'll be able to see. I also got the dipstick out. That was a pain. I'm probably going to cut the little... you can't... Well, you can kind of see. There's a little tab up there with a bunch of electrical crap connected to the dipstick for some reason. I'm just going to cut that when the trans is out. I'm going to do a bunch of stuff like that just to make my life easier, because I know I'm going to have to take it back out again. So all I got to do is take the cross member bolts out. I got my jack under here. The thing is, the idea is, put it towards the back of the pan, kind of lower it a little bit, or maybe just keep it right there, honestly, and then we have room to slide the transmission back on the pan, with it being back on the pan, or on the back side of the pan. We'll see how well that goes. I don't think it's going to tip forward. I'll be here holding it. If it does drop, I mean, they're cheap transmissions. I'll just buy a new one, or a different one. Don't crush your hands. Don't mangle yourself, because I mean, you only got one pair of hands. You can't swap those out. The transmission's like $300. So I'm gonna take those cross member bolts out, and then I'll record me dropping it, hopefully. Well, not dropping it, but removing it. All right, here we go. I'm gonna be pretty upset if I drop this. Alright, it's separated. A little bit anyways. It's kind of leaning towards the back, or front, I mean. It's not what I wanted to do. Kind of just whacking that to move that forward. I don't know if that translates well. Looks like it's kind of leaning like that towards the front. It's not too bad, I guess. I do want to get this more forward. I hope I'm not just beating the piss out of the converter, but that's a possibility. Keep working on it, I guess. What I don't want to do is get my body in there. But I might just have to. Let's go. coming off pretty easy, but it's coming down that I'm worried about. Okay. That's my wiener. So shimmy it on the other side now. Looks like maybe I gotta let it down. Maybe that's why it's angled so much. Ooh, that's tilted to one side pretty bad. Okay. The jack is to the driver's side quite a bit. Let's see if we can't fix that. Looks like we're home free. Just about, anyways. That's pretty nice, actually. Maybe if I bring the jack back, and we just slowly bring it down. I gotta stop putting my genitals in you guys' face. It's just rude. I have to get that over before we topple. Center. Yeah. Not really. Okay, let's not get under the jack. Just bounce there pretty low, actually. There we go. There we go. Oh, out of the way, nice. Okay, well, just about out. That's good. Probably just screwed myself by saying that, but hey, you know. Oh, excuse me. I could just do the servo right here. I don't know where that went. Oh. Okay, that's a little weenie guy. Little weenie fella. How does that come out? Ah! Hello? I don't know how that big clip comes out. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, it kind of wants to tip back. I've got enough slack now. Should be up it a little bit more. Strap back on. Okay. Come on, guys. Let's figure it out. Oh, of course. There we go. There's that. That came undone again. You put that back on there. Balanced a little better. I gotta figure out how to get this connector up here off. Everything else is loose except these two and this. So how the heck do I get that off? Oh, I got this far. Should be able to figure this out. Right? And a tab there. It doesn't just pull out. How does it just pull out? Help me understand. Oh, there's a vacuum hose. Trying to rip that apart. The more stuff I take off, the more stuff it looks like I gotta replace. This is getting kind of to be a mess. Alright, I gotta figure this clip out here. I don't want to break that because that's the main harness connection there for the, oh, maybe that, no, that's the shifter. That's got to be the main thing for the valve body. And then I'm also going to unscrew those. So I'm going to figure out how to do that before I break something. I'll be right back. Yep. So it looks like for this, you just squeeze both sides and lift it right off. Glad I didn't break that. Thanks, YouTube. Very cool. All right. So I got that clip off. Put some painter's tape over those fittings. Those fittings just convert the MPT threads to a -6, so I can run those lines to my transcooler. Those are pretty trick. Well, that paper towel's not doing a whole lot, but it prevents stuff from getting in there and those getting damaged. So I'm gonna drop this the rest of the way and get it on out of there. Hopefully. Oh boy. Don't do that. Found that bolt. It's actually not that heavy. I just don't want it falling on me. There we go. How do I pull it out of the car? Is the question. There we go. And a past. And that's well, that's what I didn't want to do. Okay. We're just gonna have to. Oh, come on. Poop. Clear. Woo! Transmission's out. Nope, don't want to lose the converter. Back in there, you. Woo! What a mess. Well, I got it out. There it is in all its glory. Just for that stupid little servo. But, I mean, it makes sense to have it gone through or go through it myself. There's that baby blue or teal converter I was talking about. I'm pretty sure it's stock. I'm going to talk to the guy that rebuilt my girlfriend's transmission and see what he says. If he's like, yeah, you could probably do it, then I'll try it. Otherwise, if he gives me a good price, I'll just take it right to him. But yeah, I'm going to go inside and shower and go to bed. I think that's it. Oh, this is the bolt that was missing. So these are the 3 side bolts I pointed out. I was missing one of these. And this one sucked to get to. I don't envy anybody who has to take one of these out. Or me, who has to put it back in. There's a lot of these little cracks on the bell housing. I don't know what that's all about. But it's probably fine. And if it's not, it's not. But, yep, that's going to do it for me. Hey, I probably just screwed something up. Alright, good night.
Alright, it's another weekend here. I'm ready to work on the car again. This is my 2004 Pontiac GTO. And I think I finally came up with a name for the channel here. I'm going to call it Second Guess Racing. I wanted to call it Second Guess Garage, but then I second guessed it because everybody calls their thing something garage. So the ultimate goal is to get this in a test, the drag strip, and see what it does. Got a couple things I could do today. I could mess with the engine, replacing the rear main seal, the oil pan gasket. I also picked this up from Improved Racing. This is like a windage tray, and then little containment thing here for the oil pan, little flappies. This is helpful in my car because it's a front sump. So when you take off, like in a drag race application, you're bringing the front up like that, all the oil sloshing towards the back away from the pickup tube. And I guess I think the 6.0s are more prone to it, but all the front sumps, typically the LS's, unless they're sideways, I guess. I don't know. I know that's good. I've only heard good things about improved racing, so I'm excited to put that in. I've also got this little extra clamp for the oil pickup tube. I guess there's just one bolt that holds it in. This is kind of like another bolt and clamp. And then they were nice enough to send me a little key tag. Thank you, Improved Racing. So there's that. Or I can continue with the transmission that's here on the floor, take the servo out, and finish up the valve body there. I haven't talked to the transmission shop yet. I'm still debating on whether I should attempt that myself or just have somebody do it. I don't have a ton of money for that, but I also don't have a ton of experience, so a little on the fence. But that's kind of where we're sitting. I guess there's nothing to it but to do it.
So here's what I did to get those flex plate bolts, I think they are, for an automatic, broken loose. I put a, don't know the socket size, I'll get it when I'm done with this, but I put a breaker bar on there and it pushes into my jack. And kind of position myself, I put my knee there to push against it so it doesn't fall apart. And then I strategically get up here with a 15 mil, and you know, I was able to get all those. So that's a little tip for you if you don't have a ton of impact tools. I don't really like using impact stuff because I feel like I round out more bolts than I should. But that's how I did it, and none of them are damaged. So we'll get those all the way out and take the flywheel or flex plate off, whatever you want to call it. I think it is a flex plate.
The size of the crank snout bolt is 15/16, by the way.
So here's a flex plate. I'll just have to remember that that side goes towards the transmission. Here's all the bolts. The little dowel, I guess, goes in there and centers it, or orients it one way. I just kind of pushed on each side, or pulled on each side rather, and it came off eventually. I mean, it was on there a little bit. My engine's nice and oily, so yours might be on there a little more. I imagine if you get something behind here and you kind of pry on it a little bit, not too much, but you'll be able to get yours. Shouldn't be a big deal. So there's the rear of the engine without that flex plate on. You can see there's anti-seize and crap in there. All the threads look good. It might not translate well on camera. It might look like I screwed something up, but that's just like factory anti-seize, I think. I'll have to figure out. That looks like that's just part of the crank. I imagine in a manual car you would put the pilot bushing in there, but I thought in an automatic car, well, I guess there's no snout. Well, the snout from the converter fits in here, but if you have a manual car, you can't see it really well. There we go. So there's two depths there, the big outer race and the smaller inner race. Imagine the smaller inner race would get a pilot bushing if you had a manual car. Mine's an automatic. So the torque converter would just sit on the larger outer race. So that's nice. That's one less thing I have to do. Where was I now? So as you can see, this is the oil pan here, this whole lower thing. This is where a lot of the oil would go upon, you know, rapid acceleration, like a race application type thing. And there's these long bolts that go all the way up here into this cover. So this is the cover that you take off, and you put the rear main seal in here, and there might be a couple other things in there we can replace while we're at it. I got the whole conversion kit, so we should be good. Unfortunately, to take the oil pan off, because I don't have, like, I can't even get my fingers in there. I have to lift the engine out, or up, with my cherry picker to get the oil pan down and out, or at least down enough to where, yeah, I have to take it out for that oil pan baffle. Huh. Well, I'm going to try not to lose all my coolant, but that might be a real possibility. We will see. I think I'm going to start with this this rear cover and the rear main seal, which isn't really leaking. I thought it really was, but it looks like it's just the oil pan. The oil pan's leaking real bad. That corner and that corner. And then we've also got a lot of oil up there. So I'm not doing anything with the heads in the intake, I decided, so that'll just have to wait. Be fine. Got some random sensors up there. You know the deal. It's just another LS. So I realized I have to drain the oil still, otherwise I'm going to have oil everywhere, just like the transmission fluid I have everywhere. My jack is on the skid plate, which I need to take off to drain the oil. So I got to undo all that. I got to undo my motor mounts to lift this up, and hopefully not out. And I have to undo this strut brace too. So if you like doing 8 things to do one thing, or undoing 8 things to do one thing, I should say, get a GTO. They're great. So the skid plate's off. It's 16 mil bolts from me, but you know, I have nut certs and an aftermarket skid plate and bolts, so it may be different from you. There's the oil pan on the front passenger side. It'll be a 13 mil bolt, and then I have, since my jack is on the subframe and kind of in the way, I have this little oil waterfall thing prepared. So I'm going to drain the oil and continue on. Yeah, that's working better than I expected, honestly. I don't see a lot of material on my drain plug there. Another tip is to get a magnetic drain plug as soon as you get a vehicle. Oh boy. It'll often tell you what state the car's in, if it's about to blow up or not. But just gonna let that drain, inspect that, and then we'll pop that rear cover off. So there was a little bit of a magnetic sludge in there. I don't see any chunks of anything. Nothing's real glittery. It's just kind of shiny because it's wet. So I think that's fine. Like I said, this engine has 120K on it, so that's to be expected. It's showing no signs of like a dead cylinder or weak cylinder on a compression test, so I think we're good. So the strut tower's off. Those were 13 mils. The motor mounts, top and bottom, are 3/4. Those nuts are off. I just used a big old extension to get down there. It wasn't no big deal. If you're struggling, just you'll figure it out. Now I'm gonna get the cherry picker hooked up and pick this engine up, hopefully. I took the starter out too because it looked like I might crush it going in there. It's just a 13 mil and an 8 mil to take that out. I had already done the big 3 upgrade, where you upgrade all the wires to like 0 gauge for a stereo. I don't have a stereo in there, just a head unit, but I figured it wouldn't help or hurt with like charging issues and starting issues to like the alternator and all that. But got my chain hooked up. I got one of these doodads, and I've used them before, where you get it out all 4 corners, but you have to have the intake off for that, and I don't want to do all that. So it's got these factory tabs, one here, one up there. I just, throw a bolt through it with a nut, and then kind of tug on it the way you think it's going to go, and just make sure it doesn't crush into everything like your plastic intake. But it looks good, so I'm going to start picking it up.
First LS swap. Oh, I finally got this out. It took a lot longer than anticipated initially. I had to remove the oil pickup as well. I looked in the screen there, there's nothing, that's good. So if you can kind of see, there's some bolts here, 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 all the way around. That's what we'll be taking out and putting in the improved racing baffle. And then if you notice on the pickup, there's only one ear there on the bottom end of the engine. There's actually two holes, so this will kind of go over there and create a second ear there to seal it, as I was talking about earlier. I might just do that and replace this oil pan gasket here and call it a night. This is taking forever, fellas. It's really difficult. I've got the engine up pretty high. I think my main issue is this fuel line here, this braided one. I don't have the tool to remove it because I destroyed it last time I had to remove it, and it's not really letting it come up much more than that. I took the weather stripping here off just in case. I mean, it's doable, but I feel like it would be a lot easier if I could take that off. That's why I had to take the oil pickup off. So maybe if you can undo that, you don't have to take the oil pickup off. I don't know. How about you? Let me know. But I'm going to switch this stuff over and hopefully get it back in the car and then probably call it a night. Oh, and by the way, there's a rivet there and a rivet up here. You'll have to drill out to get the OE gasket off. So ignore all the debris, but yeah, that little... Oh, there we go. That little spot there is pretty sure where my leak was coming from. Everywhere else around here looks pretty decent. I mean, there's crap all over it because I just struggled to get it out of the car. But I'm pretty sure that's our culprit right there. So I can't take that out without taking these tubes out. And that looks like it's just those 4 long bolts there. Not a big deal, but it seems like everything on this car is like that, and it gets a little annoying. I mean, come on. I know that's probably important, but it actually deadheads right there. It's not important at all. But maybe someday it'll be important. But right now, it's just in the way. So, if you're in the boat I was just in, you're trying to figure out how to get these studs out, it's a 4mm, which no kit has, I'm convinced. I have it in this random little kit I got on Amazon years ago for maybe $5. Yeah, 4mm. I took just this side out, and then you're able to kind of lift it up and remove it that way. Good luck. Not too much difference. Oh, I guess there's a significant difference, but so you can see how the improved pan works, or the baffle works. It lets oil in, but not out. And it's got 4 of those. I'm assuming this is the OEM. I don't see any stamping or anything to indicate otherwise. It just kind of chambered. So I think it lets like a slow drain happen, a drain back, instead of all at once, which isn't terrible. I don't know what the LS2 pans look like. I'm assuming the same. But we're going to put this in. And it looks like they've even left me provisions to maybe put the pickup tube on, and then, well, I guess that little wall there might stop me from putting it in, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to put it in and get this back in the car and probably call it a night. So there's the baffle all installed. You got to put the tubes in yet and a little cover back here, but there it is. I just put one UGA, no Dugga, and I put the improved racing towards the front. So, I mean, that's the only way it fits, I guess. But yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm hopeful I won't blow up my engine now if I go sideways. Alright, everything's all buttoned up. I've got some bolts in here, reverse, just holding that gasket in place so I don't lose it or tear it or anything. I replaced these gaskets. One, 2, and then 3 with the Felpro kit. I have 2 left over. I'm assuming that's just for variation in LS style engines. I probably should have put this crossover tube back in the way I did, where I had it up and then laid it down and brought it, or had it up, brought it in, laid it down. I just put it in and then drug it across, and I kind of scratched up my nice new baffle, but no one will see it, so it's not a big deal. But here I go, throwing it hopefully in the car. I think I am gonna clean up the mating surface on the engine itself, and then these little window marks here, I think I'm gonna put at all 4 corners there. They're there. I'm gonna put some RTV there and just kind of let it tack up overnight, and then come back and torque it up, and then that'll be pretty much my night.
So I've got the engine lowered back on the motor mounts. I've got the oil pan done with the pickup tube clamp and the new gaskets, and that was pretty much all I did. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it was a lot. It took a long time. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it's done. Hopefully tomorrow I can do the rear main stuff, and then, I mean, that should go easy, right? If that goes easy, then I can do transmission things and be done with that and be one step closer to, you know, lighten them up. But yeah, I'm tired. I kind of feel like crap. I didn't get that much done, but it was hard. But yeah, that's it for tonight. So I'm back for another weekend of wrenching. Maybe I'll call it that. I never came back to Saturday last weekend. Had something come up, but we're back. I talked to my transmission builder, or rebuilder, I guess, and he basically said for $1,200 he'd put new clutches in it, and it's got kind of high miles at 120, but it should be fine. So I think we're just gonna do the TransGo, you know, valve body upgrades, and then you know, once I put the heads and the cam in there, maybe we'll reassess and either go through this and put some beefier stuff in this, or for the price of that, just get a performance transmission. But yeah, so today I don't know if I want to tackle the rear main seal first, because I still have to do that, or do the servo and finish up the valve body stuff on there. I think I am going to underneath the car. I've been needle scaling any rust, you know, wire brushing it out so there's no rust. If there's a hole, have it patched, and then just pour 15 over that, paint over rust 15, and then bed line over it so it'll never rust again, and also it sound deadens it to a degree. Probably gonna do that before I put this transmission back in, which maybe take a day, who knows. I think I have some around here. But that's the plan so far. I think I'll do the rear main seal first.
So I'm down here attacking this rear main seal. These were all just 10 mil. That came out pretty easy, no drama. But while I'm down here, I'm looking around, and like this wire here, and the jacketing is all crunchy. I'm going to replace at least the jacketing on that. I'm assuming that's from being too close to the header. Just little things like that. And then like the rust here at this lip, I'm going to hit that with a needle scaler. Knock all the loose stuff out, and then pour 15 and bed line over it, much like I have everywhere else on the car. This is kill mat for extra sound deadening, but basically the entire, you can't really see that, but it's all pour 15'd and bed lined up to about this part here in the trans tunnel. And you know, obviously with the transmission in the way, you can't get more than that. I think we'll go ahead and do that. don't know what sensor, like an oil sending or oil sensor or something up here. I'm not sure what that is, but it looks like that's leaking or collecting crap in there. Like all this is kind of oily, so got to keep an eye on that. But the new oil pan gasket looks nice. And there's no oil in it, so I have no idea if it's working, but it's there. I just pulled the rear main cover off and the gasket came off, and it's a little dirty down in these corners, so I'm going to get a paper towel, some brake clean, and clean that up. I don't want to put a whole bunch of that into like the oil, where I'm going to be putting new oil. Looking at the numbers here on the crank and the cam, they're both stock, so no surprises there. I guess the 1721 is pretty much how you tell that it's a stock cam. But yep, just trucking along.
So here's that rear main cover. This is the inside. The sealing surface is on this side. It's really important to get this seal. See how the lip, well, you can't really see it. The lip is facing inward. So like that's what you see. So there's, I guess there's also a lip there, but where it's open, it's kind of like a U shape. So the open part faces in towards the engine, and it's really important to get that. I guess it says outside on it, or at least the OEM does. Yeah, if you don't put this on right, you're going to be spewing oil everywhere. It's not good. Alright, I finally got the old one out. I had to go from the back side and kind of put a screwdriver and a hammer there and kind of pound it out. I went all the way around and it eventually came out. But yeah, I did destroy this, so that's fine. We're not using that. On the newer one, it looks like this is the outside, where it's got that little lip there. And then on the inside, instead of being a U shape, it's solid. So I think it goes just in there like that. And we'll kind of tap it in, and then we'll take this out once we're, you know, I think you let the crank push that out, and it basically ensures it doesn't destroy. Well, there's not really a lip there, so I guess. But that's where we're at. It's going well, I hope. I just found this where it says this side out, so I was right. That's good. But we will leave this plastic retainer in there. I want to say people do that, and then the crank just pushes it out, and then that's how you don't get a pinch back side, even though there's nothing to pinch back here. We'll follow Proto. Alright, I was able to pretty much seat this by pushing it in, but just to be sure, I took this little punch here and kind of walked it all around, just gently tapping it so I didn't mar up this this rubber at all. But it seems to be seated pretty well. And once you know it, pushing this in, the seal in, I push this out, and there is a big old folded up lip in there, so you're right about that too. I'm vindicated. But we're going to clean up the engine now, the engine side, and get the new Felpro gasket, some anaerobic gasket maker towards the bottom there, and just kind of set it on there, let it dry up maybe overnight, and then we'll get to this thing. Yikes. So I got the rear main done, and now I think I'm going to put the motor mounts, bolt those back in, because this hoist in my way every time I have to walk past the front of the car is a major inconvenience. So let's do that next. Oh, it is hot. You might think you may have misunderstood me when I said anaerobic gasket maker, but that's what I said. So basically there's two kinds of gasket makers, aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic would be your typical like RTV, blue, gray, black, and that requires a lot of time and air to dry, where this stuff, you can squirt it on there, and I think you're supposed to leave it sit for a couple minutes, maybe a half an hour, and then you just tighten everything up, and once the air is gone, it starts sealing. So
I believe the idea is if there is a hole, while it's still liquid, it'll get squirted through there. Oh my God, I'm sweating so bad. Maybe that's not it. Maybe I'm just being overzealous, but I've heard anaerobic is the way to go, especially on aluminum, which my engine is all of that. So anaerobic, don't count it out. It's pretty good stuff. Well, I guess we'll find out if it is or not.
There we go. Not sure if you could see that, but basically what I did is I got, I guess I'll start over here. I was able to kind of pick this out with 2 screwdrivers. That was pretty easy. And then this cap here didn't really want to come out. I guess they're pretty stubborn with this blue O-ring on there. So I put this on to not mar it up, and then got some channel locks on it, and then got in there with a pick. I don't think I damaged the O-ring, but I'm going to replace it anyways, so it's not a big deal if I did. And then there's just a little snap ring in there, but I believe that number right there. That's why the transmission's out of the car. That number right there. Alright, I was wrong. It's that top number there. So we want the last 3, I believe. 093, vet, so we use 1 3/4. That'll help us further on. Now I just got to follow that step 1, which I should have done this whole time, but I couldn't get to it, so, you know, whatever. But I'm just going to record me blowing through that. I mean, if you can't follow that, then maybe you shouldn't do this. And maybe I won't be able to follow it, and maybe I shouldn't do this. This little guy apart. Gotta take this apart and put a spring inside of it. And I'm really hoping I don't gall this all up. Figured it out, boys and girls. Put it in the vise to kind of squish this center fella. I guess that moves in and out with the spring. And that took tension off, and I was able to get that started. So, wish the instructions said that, but they don't. So now that that's open, kind of goes like that. Bam, bam, bam. I guess you take out this little guy, and you replace it with this little blue fella. It should just sit right in there, and then I'll probably clean this up first, but then you just put that on and put your snap ring back in. Alright, that was kind of a pain, but I just kind of started with one end, and then in the vise I just walked it all around with a screwdriver. Come on. I scratched it a little bit right there and a little bit inside here, but I don't think that's going to be a huge deal. I mean, you can see it's got nicks on it all over, so it's fine. I guess my big takeaway is this big seal it's in 2 pieces. It's a split seal. There we go. So make sure it's lined up right when you put it back in. This bottom smaller one seems to be just a normal seal. Try not to bang those up because the kit doesn't come with more. So, alright, we'll keep on going.
got it. Get 1/8 of an inch. So, if you're upgrading your drive shaft on these, I highly suggest keeping this. This is nice. It keeps the tail shaft here plugged and, you know, lets me do things like this. So I don't think that's going to be enough movement. So I'm going to take it out, the shim, and we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a lot better. You need 1/8 play in and out, and I'm getting like maybe a 1/16. It's very tight. It also says you should be able to turn this both ways. One way may be harder, and that's definitely the case. But also my entire valve body's not in there, so back out it comes. That's a lot better. So, got to keep an eye there by the retainer. So that's what we're getting with no shims. So I believe we don't want any shims. But now I got to take this back out and put the O-ring back on. So you check it without the O-ring, obviously. But once that's done, then I can do valve body stuff. Alright, back at the valve body. Not sure if you can really see that. It's about as far down as it'll go, so that's all you get. So right here, I'm 093 from my Corvette servo. So I'm going to pick the very lightly painted white spring. And I'm going to do step number 4. I have to take out a roll pin. I don't know how to do that. It looks like this little thing went in there. I'll figure out how to get that roll pin out. Then I'll do that. Alright, so there's the roll pin. You can see it kind of peeking up. All that is, I kind of stuck a screwdriver in here and just lifted up on it just a little bit. It's pretty loose, so the trick, I guess, would be to have this out enough to where it doesn't, I imagine it unsprings once you get it all the way out, but we'll see. Alright, so that was pretty easy. I just took the roll pin out like I said. It didn't unwind at all. You can just take it right out, and then there's a big valve in here with the little valve inside it, and then a spring in there. You probably can't see it, but this was the spring that was in there. It's also white. Don't get them mixed up. I think the other one's kind of like this, where it gets tight in the middle. Hello? It gets tight in the middle like that, but it's white instead of red. So I just I went up and in with the 2 valves and the spring into the valve body here. It didn't seem to really want to seat any other way, so that's the way it works for me. I'm going to do this optional step 5 where you can hold first gear at any speed or up to any speed, and then you can go back to it. Obviously you don't want to do that because you'll money shift and you're automatic. But so this is the original valve. There's no holes in there. There's a little hole in this new valve. You reuse the same spring, and then you put this little spacer on top, and there's a little actuator or whatever the hell it's called. But that just goes right in there. Pretty simple stuff. Let the record show that I'm definitely going to regret this, and this will be why I blow up my transmission. So, can't wait to pull the clip up. Alright, now we're on to the last step on this page. I've done everything but step 2. I don't want to grind on that. It's for the manual valve for a faster reverse release, I guess. You can read that. So now we're just going to take this cover off and replace, I guess this, no, not that spring. We're going to put that spring, the new yellow spring, in the old spring. So let's do that. So, little correction, we're replacing this green spring with this yellow spring. I guess this is a low valve. So, that's it. Alright, so we're doing the ISO converter regular valve, I guess, this thing. Mine came out really easy. Here it is, the stock little fella that goes in, then that, then this little stopper, and then this. I guess it gets replaced by this. You're supposed to put this in and out 20 times. This screws in the end of it here. I just used a little screwdriver and went in this first hole and just kind of was able to pull it out. I did that 20 times. You're supposed to wait till it can go in and out with gravity. So mine does that. So we're going to throw it in and on to the next step. So I think I'm all done with the valve body stuff, thankfully. I still have to do the separator plate, and it looks like there's a boost valve upgrade for this thing. The pump stator, I guess, or the transmission pump. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I just pulled the converter out. It just slips out. I mean, that's real easy. I think I have to take the bell housing out, though, because, you know, not a lot of clearance there. So I'm going to take the bell housing off, and then I'm going to yank these off, and hopefully that's all that's holding it on there. It's a T50, by the way. Okay, that ain't working. What the hell? Maybe we'll try that. Getting that out with those in there. That bell housing is stiff. A lot of O-rings on them. No screwdriver required, just pops right off. Maybe I will have to take the bell housing off. Big old breaker. Ah, fuck. I'm just asking for something to strip now. Hey, it didn't strip. Might be onto something. Hey, that's how you do it, I guess. That's one way to do it. Ta-da! Whew, I'm sweating. There's something holding it in, so I gotta figure out what it is. Alright, boys and girls, here's what we got. I got a bearing separator kit. I think I got this on Amazon for like 35, 50 bucks. Basically, you put it on there backwards, and there's a little lip right here on the splines where it can catch, and then you snug these up, put your arms on, and then put your puller on, and I guess the pump just pulls right off of this input shaft.
It's as easy as that. So I got it out. You can see the splines where I was pulling right here where it's stepped. And they just come off of the input shaft here. The only thing I don't like is there's like rifling in there. Which, I mean, it got tight towards the end and then it kind of popped out. Nothing looks messed up. I really hope I didn't mess up my transmission. But nevertheless, we'll have an upgraded boost valve in the pump. The more I look at it, there's no like raised material on the outside, so that must be just for like internal stuff. I don't know. I don't think I messed it up. Everything else looks fine on the input shaft and inside there, so just keep plugging away at it. So here's a comparison of the the regulator boost valve in the transmission. So this is the new stuff up here, this is the old stuff. It just kind of, this goes in here, then these two springs go in between that, and then you have it with that. I almost forgot this aluminum spacer. I guess it goes right on there. Don't forget that. I think it's important. But just gonna get ready and throw it right in the hole and keep moving on. So I got kind of far. I got the pump off. I got the valve body done. I got the boost valve and the pump done. On the stator part that goes in, or on the input shaft inside the pump, behind the pump, there was some like yellow, orange, golden material, which I think may be the clutch because it's sitting like this instead of up like this, which is kind of what you're supposed to do when you're rebuilding these. So I have to figure out what that is, if that's going to be a problem. Otherwise, I might be buying a, you know, the little bench mount stand where you can just mount the transmission and just go through it real quick. Again, I've never done this, so we'll have to see what happens. I'm going to be really upset if I pull this all back together and it's immobile still. But we're plugging away. It's another night, you know. It's 4 in the morning. I'm going to go to bed. I might be back tomorrow. Maybe not. We'll see. I got a haircut. It's another day here in the garage. I wasn't sure yesterday if some material on the pump stator snout was from the clutches, and it very well could be. I don't know if it goes and touches the clutches at that point though, so it could have just been clutch material floating around in the transmission. I think I'm gonna just try and put the pump back in and put the valve body back in, and then if everything goes well, we'll put it back in the car. If I can't get the pump back in, then, you know, I'll have to buy a little, it's like a C shape with 3 points on it for a transmission. You can mount it to a toolbox or a bench, and it kind of keeps it upright. I think my issue may have been because you can move that input shaft around. Maybe something didn't come out super straight. It is a little sketchy to not tear into it after finding a chunk of something on there, but ultimately I think it's going to be okay. I mean, the car's just making 350 horse, and the worst thing that's going to happen is, you know, I just have a failure in the transmission, which would suck after doing all this, but that just means I'll get more experience building transmissions, I guess. But gonna try and get the pump back in now, and then maybe finish up with the separator plate modification, and that's really all I'm hoping to do today. Eventually I'll be buttoning it all back up and then putting it back in the car. I gotta paint the underside of the car, bedline the car still, but that's, you know, that's further down the road. I have to look up how to reinstall this pump because, as I kind of figured, using that much force to pull it out, I think it's pressed in somehow, some way, somewhere in there. I don't want to just go shoving on it. I don't want to tip it on its tail shaft there because I think those are pretty brittle.
I'm gonna look up how to put this in the right way, I guess. So, you may be wondering why the servo's out. I was messing around trying to get the pump back on and noticed I could spin it, the tail shaft this way. Oh, now I can spin it that way, never mind. I'm a liar. For some reason, it wasn't allowing me to spin it this way. So I read the instructions again, and it said if there's not enough play in the servo that you need to take a shim out. Well, if you remember, I didn't put any shims in. There's also the issue of the band is kind of back walked out, and now that gasket right here is kind of sitting on the band. So I need to get that back in, or maybe it's just misaligned, I don't know. It could just be misaligned. I don't know. I'm leaning more and more towards either just tearing this completely down and rebuilding it, or handing it off to somebody that's a little more experienced. It's a little frustrating, but I'm going to mess around with this for maybe a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to do the separator plate upgrades. So I drilled all the holes for the separator plate, and then I realized I'm pretty sure start Z-bolts first to align plate and gaskets to case. So I think I have to put the gaskets and the case in there as well and drill out those holes, which I didn't do. I just drilled out the separator plate. But, I mean, I'm kind of at a standstill now. I've got the valve body done. That's done. I just need to put it in and redo it. And then the transmission I'm still iffy on.
So it's kind of a bittersweet moment. The trans needs to be gone through. I don't trust it as it is, with the output shaft being super weird angled, and I'm only able to spin it both ways sometimes. And then the input shaft is super loose in there, which I think they usually are without the pump, but then I can't get the pump in. So it's either pay somebody to do it with stock stuff and it's $1,200, or pay $75 for the stand, the special stand, and then figure out somewhere to mount it. Pay, I don't even know, probably a couple $100 for an overhaul kit, maybe some beefed up parts, and then hope I do it right. That's kind of the predicament I'm in. I don't really have anything else I can do right now with it, unfortunately. It's still summer, and either way I'll have to save up money, because that's, you know, what gets these things going is money, and this is a hobby for me. So it may be a little while, there may be a little time lapse here. It's kind of the end of summer right now. We'll see when we get back, and maybe I'll have gone a different route, who knows. But, you know, till then, I guess. So I'm back, probably a little bit earlier than expected, but I have this nifty little trans mount here that goes on my engine stand that I acquired. It was probably about $100. I got it from the guy on eBay. He says these other two Chinese companies stole his design, so I bought it from him because it was like $3 more, so why not? This is going to be a game changer. I think last time I talked about how my output shaft only spins one way. It's still doing that, and I think that's because the drum here is kind of up and cockeyed, so like the drum's coming out, but the band is still holding on to it for some reason, even though the servo's not in there. So I got this new Alto, I think Sonics band, Alto Sonics, whatever. It's like 2 5/8, so it's going to be significantly larger than the OEM band, and hopefully my drum there isn't too messed up. I know they get kind of concave where the the band kind of bites in, but we'll look at that when we get it out. Basically, we're gonna get this drum the rest of the way out, inspect everything, take the band out and see what's going on there, and hopefully that's kind of why the output shaft isn't turning, and then I don't have to go any further, but we'll see. So I couldn't just get it out. I think I need to pop this little, there's a pin here, I'll show you. I think that definitely holds the band in, but I think that's making the band all cockeyed so it's not coming out. My girlfriend also came out here, and I'm still not super comfortable like recording myself around people, so I kind of hurried and panicked and turned it off, but you know, she's pretty good. Love you, Katie. There's this little pin here that holds the band in, and I need to get that out in order to get the band out. I've seen people go in from the top here and kind of pop it out, and I guess you can just kind of pop it out a little bit. It doesn't need to be all the way, but that's going to be the next step here. Get the band out and get the drum out. So I just got my screwdriver in between. That little pin comes right in here into this band. I got my screwdriver in between the pin and the band here, and it just kind of barely popped out, like just barely popped out, but now I can grab it and pull it out, and that's what holds the band in. So we'll set that there, and hopefully I can get the, yep, the band just comes right out. Look at that. That's live action for you, buddy. Well, maybe not. I think we gotta, it looks like it's still connected down here. Leave that in there. Maybe we can pull the drum out. We'll figure it out. I'll get it out of there. I'll let you guys know how I did it. You know. So yes, I was able to just pull this whole drum assembly out. I think this will even slide apart. Yeah, slide apart more. That comes off. All your clutches are in there. I couldn't tell you which clutches they are, to be honest. And your drum here, input shaft, and then your band just kind of sits in there, fastened in there. This stuff just sits in there. So your sun shell, your planetaries. I just have a 4-pinion planetary. I think later on I'll upgrade to a 5-pinion, and there's also a pinion in there in the shell in the drum. I think that's the shell, that's the drum. I don't know. In there's a 4-pinion planetary, much like that. It's just a little bit bigger. Maybe it's behind there. I don't know. Can you tell I'm just figuring this out for the first time? Either way, we're going to upgrade those and a bunch of other things, but right now we're just trying to get this thing, you know, back together and on the road with a couple upgrades, and let you guys know if I find anything crazy that I think needs to be addressed. Alright, so this is the stock band that was in there. This is the other one I ordered, the Alto band. They might look pretty similar in size, but if you kind of stack them on top of each other, the Alto one is a decent amount thicker. I thought maybe it'd be a lot thicker, but I guess not. This looks to be, it says Borg Warner on it, so it looks to be the original one. I don't know. I'm going to soak that one in transmission fluid. I'm having this issue though. I'm trying to put the drum in, and oh boy, this is going to be hard with one hand. These little clutch teeth in there. I'm trying to line them all up because I'm sure they engage with the splines there on the outside of the pinion. So these need to go in kind of perfectly and you know, sit in those slots, I think.
It looks that way anyways. But I'm having a really hard time doing that. So ideally, I want to get the drum in there. Then I can put the band in there and then put the shell on top and start reassembling the transmission. So I'm going to try and figure out how, well, I guess the pump too. Let's not forget the pump. I'm going to figure out how to get this drum in there, and then I'll be back. So it looks like you just put the shell on the drum, and you put the whole thing in here before you put the band in, and kind of shake. You shake it and twist it. You know, I'm not going to do that again. You shake it and twist it, and then the clutches will eventually line themselves up. So I'm going to go do that. It's working. Is that it? That might be it. Let's try and put it in here now. It's exactly what it looks like. This is on there. I don't think the shell's on there all the way. Try it again. Oh, maybe. Maybe it was. That might be it. Ooh, we got some action. What was that? I'm having an issue lining the clutches up, but also the sun shell and then this other shell. I might be calling it the wrong thing. Now the two shells are lined up, but I don't think all the clutches are lined up quite. Because it's sitting above the mounting face for the pump, like quite a bit. Probably a good 1/4 inch. Well, you get the idea. I'm going to mess with this a little more. Alright, I finally got it. As you can see, the shell here sits lower than this, these mounting pads for the drum, like all the way around. Pretty confident everything's seated. That's how it's supposed to be. So we're going to try, and I guess we'll have to soak that band, maybe overnight even, yeesh. We'll soak that band, put the band in, put that little gasket back on, and then put the pump on. I guess I should address why I'm not, like, lubricate, like, everything's lubricated. I'm reusing everything, and, like, I'm planning on building this transmission up. So it's going to be out of the car again relatively soon, I feel like. So, and all these gaskets and O-rings and things look fine. So I'm just kind of putting them in just to get the car, you know, moving again. see what we got going on. But like the transmission will be out of the car again, and I'm gonna go completely through it. So I'm not worried about like reuse. Like all the stuff looks fine. Did I say that? But yeah, I guess we'll soak that band next, and I guess I got to put the band in, put the pump on, and then I can flip it over and do the valve body stuff. So that may be all we're doing tonight. But it's a long weekend, so I'm hoping, my hope and my goal is to get this transmission back together by the end of this weekend. So it's another day here in the garage, and I've probably said it a million times now, but we're going to try and get the band in, the pump on, and then start working on the valve assembly. I don't know if I talk too much. Let's just get into it. So apparently you have to take this clutch drum out, this top fella. Wish I would have known that. Would have never put it in. How do I get it out without taking the whole thing out again, is the question. I'm just going to have to take the whole thing out again. Gosh dang it. Put this fella back in. That's in. Throw our band in that's been soaking. I've been soaking it for a while now. This is why you need the other drum off, I guess. Otherwise the band won't fit. Ask me how I know. That's in. Let's get the pin for it. There's a little pin. This goes in the bottom here. In the hole on the band. Ta-da! That's not too bad. Now let's get this fella back in there. Just kick the little pin out of the band here. There we go. That's in there. Oh, that looks good. Alright. Let's try to get it in there nice and straight. All my clutch teeth are lined up. Not that it'll matter. Doesn't want to seem to go past the band. Keeps kicking out the stupid little piston. It's the same length. I thought there was a way where you could get the band in after that, but I tried and it's doesn't want to go in after the fact. Well, I'm gonna have to mess with this for a little bit, figure it out. All right, I finally got it in there. You see the band is in there. I've got my little holder thing. All I did was kind of pull up on the input shaft like that, and I was able to sneak this thick part of the band in. And then I kind of maneuvered it with the screwdriver, just being careful not to scratch anything up. So the clutch drum and then the clutch shell and then the drum, I guess. I still don't know what these things are called. Can go in first and then you put the band in. I saw somebody else do it a different way and that didn't work for me. So that's all good. Now we can put our pump on. Well, put our gasket in, then put our pump on, and hopefully we'll be smooth sailing. Also, don't forget this little guy. This goes on the back of your pump. I'm just going to use some grease I have, some high temp grease to you know, kind of stick it on the back there so it doesn't move. I guess they make TransGo, but I don't have that. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've got the pump sitting on here and I've got all these bolts started. I know I should probably replace these, especially the O-rings on the back, but again, like I said, I'm going to be into this transmission again probably pretty soon. I got my PWM facing up because that's how it was. I kind of tapped on this with a mallet and it kind of slid down, but now it won't really go past this point. So I started all these and I'm going to slowly, you know, by hand tighten them down and it'll pull that pump right onto there. So hopefully that doesn't damage anything. Also, pretty important, if you have a newer, I think any of the 4L60s come with these, but if I can figure out how it goes on there. This little retainer here goes on the seal. I guess a lot of these have issues with the seals backing out or leaking or something, and this will help keep it in place. So don't forget that. But yeah, I'm gonna start cranking these down and hopefully it goes well, and then I'll flip it back on its back and we can probably do the servo first and then do the valve body. Hopefully wrap it up. So I've got all the bolts seated. I just kind of went around with one of these little speed fellas until everything got snug or I felt a little bit of resistance. So I did that one. I just went around. You're probably supposed to crisscross, but I wasn't putting any torque on it. I wasn't scared it was going to get all bound up. The tail, the output shaft spins both ways still, but the one side is like really, really hard. So hopefully that's not an issue. But I can't spin this at all. I don't know that I'm supposed to though. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and torque these 13mm bolts to 18 foot-pounds and then, you know, flip it over and probably do the servo and then the valve body. So we're back with that servo issue again. It doesn't move in at all. It is rock solid. I'm supposed to have an 1/8 inch of play. So I'm going to have to look at the instructions. There's no shims in there, I don't think. I have to figure that out. So I've read that these pistons here in the servo, there's 3 different sizes. I have to do some more research and figure out why there's no backspacing all of a sudden. I haven't used any shims. I didn't change anything but the boost valve in the pump, which is right here. I could have done that right there without taking the whole transmission apart. But then why would I put, you know, I wouldn't have the ability to put the new band in. I don't think it's the new band that's doing it. Because if you come over here, you can see in here, well, kinda, that big shiny thing there. That's the band, and if I get even by hand I can move it. It's free. Maybe if I put the servo in and I can still do that, I'll just send it how it is. I know it's not ideal, but, you know, if I have to buy a new band because I burn it up, it's not a big deal. But then again, if I roast the whole transmission because of that, that is a big deal. So I don't know. I'm going to look into that. I think I'm going to start putting the valve body back on. I mentioned I was watching a lot of Precision Transmission on YouTube. That dude's fantastic. He gets this 4th gear accumulator right here, and he'll lock it together with another one and just kind of completely eliminates it. I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to get started on this valve body. So I flipped the transmission upside down just for kicks and giggles. I put the servo back in, and now it's giving me that 1/8 of an inch. And where's my screwdriver? There's a screwdriver. And it's giving me an 1/8 of an inch there. You can't really see. But apparently that's all we need. So I put it in without that blue O-ring on the outside. I'm going to pop this back off and put it on and call it good. Alright. So I got the O-ring back on there. Everything's in place. It's hard to push, but it's moving. I got an 1/8 of clearance. I don't know what happened. Maybe that little piston wasn't quite in the spot for in the band. I don't know, but everything seems to be fine. The servo's fine. The band is fine. Decided not to do that, the 4th accumulator thing I was talking about, because I don't have a 4th accumulator. I have another
2.3 accumulator or 1.2 accumulator. I think those are the same size, but these are different size. So I'm going to put that check ball in. I think it goes right here. I'll have to double check. Put the gasket on, put the separator plate on, put the other gasket on, and then valve body. So I was right. You put the case check ball right in here next to this 4th accumulator, right in that little divot there. Then you come over to your kit. Hopefully you got a kit. These gaskets I wouldn't recommend reusing. You're looking for the one that says VB, so that's valve body. We want the one that says CA for case. There we go. Now it's the right way. CA. And then that's just going to go right on there like that. You want your you want your square hole here, your round hole here, per Richard from whatchamacallit, Precision Transmission. So that'll go on there. Hopefully that stays there. And then you put your plate on. I think just like that. Line her up. Oh, that's going to be kind of tough to do with one hand. Anyways, you get the idea. And then you put your other gasket on. Like so. So, I mean, that looks like crap, but I'll line this up better. And then your check balls go in here some places, and then you put your valve body on, and that's it. So I've got my accumulator on. It's loose, like I can hand tighten these. I've got my plate hold down thing on, and again, loose. I can untighten these with my fingers. I've got my 2 screens on here. I'm going to put my check balls on, and then I'm going to put my valve cover back on. Can't really do it with one hand. Maybe I can set you guys up back here. Hold on. Get my 7 check balls and my little map here for where they go. Whew. So there's all 7 of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the one that's underneath this accumulator, underneath the separator plate. So I think I'm going to put a little bit of grease on them just so they stay there, and then I'm going to come back and put the valve body on. That can't be right. I think the screens go the other way, guys. I think the screens go the other way. Alright, that's a lot better. So the screens go down into the case. And then I've got all my check balls in place. And my accumulator there. There's a squirrel running across the roof. So we're going to try and put the valve body on again. Seems to be there. Do I trust it though? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All in the right spots. This thing's good. Put it down for hopefully the last time now. There it is. It's on there. Let's get our bolts. Oh, I gotta tighten down this. I gotta tighten down the separator plate hold down bolts first, because these solenoids go over it. Won't be able to do it otherwise. Where's the torque specs? Okay. We'll look up the torque specs of that, pull that back off one last time hopefully, and get her done. So I've got my instructions here that tell me what size bolts go where in the valve body to hold it on. I've got them all separated. I got my 3 8mm that I need to replace because they got destroyed. Long 10mm, short 10mm, and then the,
shift linkage and parking stuff here. So, I mean, if you've got this far, you can follow some instructions and put some bolts in. So I'm going to do that and maybe wrap it up here. All right, the valve cover's all on. All my linkage is hooked up. I'm still missing the one solenoid that goes in here, but I've got the 2 little tie downs for the wire harness that go in there. I'm going to wait to do that until I replace these 3 8mm bolts and some of these 10 mils, and then I'll torque everything down to 8 foot-pounds. But a word of caution, try and get this valve in right here with the linkage, this little bar, that little bar there, into that valve. I just had to take all this apart, and it was such a pain in the butt, and I never want to do it again. So maybe when you're lowering the valve body on, you have the valve out and you're pushing that into the valve body, kind of the same way as when we took it off. But I think that's it for tonight. Made some good progress. Next time you see me, I should have those bolts. All right, I got those bolts from the pick and pull, and I got everything, I think, 100% back together. Getting this seal out for the filter was kind of a pain in the butt, but it wasn't too bad. I torqued everything, all the 10 mils and 8 mils to 8 foot-pounds. That's what I saw online. And then I just snugged this up because I undid this, and I mean that's kind of it. Everything seemed to have gone in pretty well, so hopefully it's all right. I chose to use this gasket over the cork one, just since it seems like it's a little bit better. But I'm gonna throw the pan on and maybe do some stuff under the car before I get this back in, and hopefully it doesn't grenade itself.
So I'm sitting here trying to torque my oil pan bolts, and I look up in there for those really long little guys. I'm like, where the hell's the hole? That little hole there, threaded hole. It's not lining up. And then I forgot the rear cover's not torqued. So make sure you do that first and then try to do the oil pan, otherwise you're gonna have a hard time. Lesson learned. And I think all the 10 mil on the cover and the oil pan are 18 foot-pounds, and the little guys, I want to say, are like 106 or 108 inch-pounds. I'm just gonna snug them up. Much better. Also, I've read that you want the oil pan to be as far forward as you can get it. It's never going to be, perfect, because you're going to have these bolts holding it up all along here, but I'm going to give it a couple whacks with my soft mallet here and get it as far forward as I can get it, because I guess, you can crush it with the transmission when you put it on. I was having a hard time getting my pan on. It was hitting like right here. I thought maybe I got the wrong filter, since there's a deep pan and a standard pan, but I know the GTOs have deep pans. It turns out the filter was getting hung up on this little connector here for this solenoid. So I kind of spun it 90 degrees out instead of being up. It's this way. And then I didn't really like how the wires here for the harness were rubbing on stuff, so I just put the some split loom on there and secured it with zip ties, kind of like the OEM. Like, this is OEM, I did that, and I did that. But just a little tip. So I've made a little bit of progress since the last segment. I've got all this Pour 15 painted and then bed lined over. I've got all the rear cover and oil pan bolts torqued to 18 foot-pounds per the factory book. Getting ready to put the flywheel back on. I've got where the transmission mount screws into all chased. I've got these new bolts for it too. They're about the same length. Here, I'll show you the old stuff. How about that? So here's the new stuff, and here's the old ones. The old ones, I guess they have a little bit of a gap down there. They have more of a flared base. These ones don't. I have some lock washers though, because I like those. And I chased all the threads with this 10 by 1.5. That's about the size, and then looks like maybe 2.5, 3 inches. I don't know how long the bolts are, but I just picked them up from Ace, and that was nice. That went pretty well. That's all painted down there, and like I said, I'm getting ready to throw the flywheel on now. It's going pretty smooth, so I'm probably not doing it right. Alright, I got the flywheel on. You torque it in a kind of crisscross pattern, I guess, or like that. I don't know. You just don't want to go around, I guess. But it's, you do 15, then 37, then 74 for the final. So I went like that, I think. And then once I got to 74, you know, I did 74 like that, and then I went around just to make sure. But that's on. That was a pain by myself. And then I got, not sure if I went over it before, but this little seal here on my input shaft was like shaved. Like the outer half was kind of sitting up in here. So it looked like I had two, but you need the one. But I bought, you know, a 4L60E kit from some guy on eBay. It came with a bunch of them. And he said this, it kind of looks orange, but it's like a brown color. He said use that one for the GTOs with the 4L60 and 65Es. But I'm going to throw the torque converter on. Hopefully it doesn't shear this. Hopefully it doesn't tip it since I'm on my floor jack there. Probably got to put the little computer guy there back on the side, a little selector. That'll be easier with it out of the car. And then I have a little piece of hose for my vent. I'll do that all while it's out of the car, and hopefully today we'll get the transmission in the car and bolt it up. I have the transmission little electronic thing there, and then I've got my hose up there. It just kind of goes to the vent tube on the other side. It's under the car. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it on the jack, so now the jack's on the other side. I have to kind of lift this probably forward. I think that's where most of the weight is with the converter in it now. Then make sure the converter doesn't slide out. Make sure it doesn't spill fluid everywhere, and then get it on the jack, and then kind of get it up and in there. This is going to be a pain in the butt. Alright. So, the transmission's back in the car. The transmission's back in the car. I bolted the torque converter up to the flywheel, and that's about as far as I'm going to get today, honestly. I probably got another day or two of just putting electrical connectors and random stuff back in there. It's going to take a while to get the headers back on. That's always a pain. So, I mean, it seems like the main things are done. I need to put oil in the engine and put fluid in the transmission before I start it as well. So that's going to be expensive. I didn't save any of the other stuff, but I mean, why would you put old stuff? Anyways, yeah, probably another weekend of that. I mean, it went pretty well today. It kind of tired me out, but whatever. I'm sure there's some stuff I'm not seeing that's just going to completely undo all of today's progress, but we'll see. I'm hopeful. But that's kind of where we're sitting right now. Hopefully the transmission works good. I mean, it all kind of went together well, and I did it according to the instructions, so I don't see why it wouldn't. Online, again, people don't like this stuff, they like this stuff, and they're all experts, so you don't know who to trust. But the transmission builder in town I talked to said it'll be okay. And I didn't put any of the shims in the servo because I didn't need to, and I guess that's the main thing I've seen people have issues with. So, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe all this will be coming out again. Maybe it'll be fast. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Alright. Back again. I mean, I guess this will all be one continuous process to you, but I buttoned a couple things up, plugged the sensors into the transmission. You really don't need to see that. You can't mess that up, I don't think. Hooked up the vent tube.
Today the mission is just to try and get the headers back on, which the driver's side is going to be a nightmare, and you know, just button up last minute stuff, put some fluids in it. I got trans fluid and oil and a filter. You might see some things from me. You might see it when it's all done. I don't know. We'll see. I've got both, well, you can't see it over there. I got both headers on. And if you're like me and you always have a hard time getting the driver's side on these, especially the 04s, because I've got the computer here, the ECU. So what you really want to do is you take the little heat shield, that guy off, just pull that out. So pull that off of here, your computer, pull this steering shaft. There we go. Your steering shaft back there, pull it up and set it right in here. Pull your header up, however you can get it in, and then pull it way forward. And then plop that steering shaft behind it, and then put your header on. That's the easiest way to do it. And it's always, I've had these out like 3 or 4 times, and it makes you go crazy. It's really hard to do, but that's how you do it. That's how I do it anyways. So everything's buttoned up on the car. I can't find my strut brace for some reason. I haven't put the hood on, but everything's plumbed back up and fluids are in it. I tried to start it, and this crappy little AGM battery from Farm and Fleet, I've killed this thing like 6 times now, and I get an exchange every time, and I still end up killing it. I guess you really got to put them on tenders if you're not going to be starting your car for more than a week. So unfortunately, that's stopping me from figuring out if I've destroyed my transmission or not. But I mean, everything went pretty well. I just kind of got after it, and it wasn't too exciting to see. But once I replace that, I get that exchanged again, you know, I'll fire it up and make sure to record it. All right, I've got the new battery in. It's all hooked up. It's not dead. We're gonna fire it up, and hopefully the trans doesn't grenade itself, or the engine. Probably all the stuff burning off the headers, all the cobwebs and other crap. I don't see nothing leaking. For a couple minutes and be back. Well, it ran fine. It didn't leak anywhere new anyways. I manually put it through the gears, and it grabbed all those gears fine, but it's still a little bit low on fluid. I guess 2 gallons of Deck 6 isn't enough when it's bone dry, so I ended up putting 2 in there, and it's showing on the dipstick, but it's not where it needs to be, so I'm gonna get more probably tomorrow, and you know, put it in there and go from there. So I'm gonna start it. I'm gonna try and drive it, and either everything will be fine and everything will have worked, or something will be wrong and it'll still work, or it just won't work. Got my little co-pilot here, so here we go.
hit the Jeep. Don't hit the Jeep. Don't hit the house. Don't check engine lights. I think we're off to a pretty good start. I'm going to concentrate on driving. I'll be back. Driving around, it feels pretty good. I've got at least 3 of the 4 gears. I think it's a 4-speed overdrive, 406E. I mean, it seems fine. I'm nervous, but I mean, we're having a good time, right, buddy? Stay tuned. Well, maybe jump on the highway here and give it some beans and see if it's actually good. Maybe we'll take it back home and check the fluid. I don't know. Maybe that's a better idea. It's a good thing I checked because, yeah, it's kind of run along the bottom there, but it was just barely at the tip, so I need to add some. Alright, I got my sunglasses. If you don't know, to check your dipstick, pull it out, look at it, wipe it off, put it in, pull it back out again. That second time you pull it out, that's going to be your reading. Your trans, you need to, if it's on automatic, you need to check it while it's running on a level surface. So, I mean, there's fluid on the dipstick. It's kind of all over it since I just poured it down the, you know, the neck of it, but I'm going to say it's enough, and we're going to go kind of fast and see what happens. Hopefully nothing breaks. But it seems good so far. Famous last words. So I got up to about 60, which is the speed limit around here. It accelerated pretty well. I pulled over and, you know, checked underneath, see if it was leaking, and it's not leaking anything, so that's a good sign. I can't really speed too much or like do burnouts because it's 8 in the morning here and people are going to school and work and taking their kids places. Like I'm not that guy. You know, maybe I'll get somebody to record me doing that stuff, but for right now it's just, you know, got the transmission put back together, it's in the car, and it seems to be working well. Hopefully it stays working well. So I just took it to get some gas. It's raining pretty bad here. I guess the check engine's light's on when it's, you know, not running, but there was a check engine light. My heart kind of stopped, and then I took a look at my code scanner here, and it's, you know, all O2 sensors, baby. We're good. No transmission stuff. It's just the O2 sensors since I have, you know, long tubes and catless mids, off-road pipes. So that's fine. I can live with that. Surprise, surprise, something's wrong. It's a Saturday after Thanksgiving. I haven't really been working on the car much. Drove it a little bit. It was doing good, and then I guess the car's on top of it. You can't see, but there was a big transmission fluid spot when I pulled it out last. So I'm really hoping it's, you know, either the inlet or the outlet line that goes into the transmission there is just a little loose, or it needs a new O-ring or something. I don't think there's even O-rings on it, so maybe that's it. I really hope I don't have to pull this whole thing out again, but we'll see. So that's from my external trans cooler kind of over in there. That's been a thing. I just need to make some new lines. But that big old guy, that's a problem. So you kind of see him up there above the servo. That top line, I forget which is which. One's in, one's out for trans fluid to a cooler. That top one was a little loose, so I snugged them both up the best I could. Probably scratched the hell out of the fittings, but hopefully that was it. Did that, brake cleaned everything, and you know, we're gonna drop her down, fill her up, and run her around a little bit and see if that fixed it. I'm almost positive that was it. I mean, it looks like a lot on the ground, but this stuff just, you know, once it drips on something, it just spreads like crazy. So probably wasn't too much that we lost, but yeah, we're gonna do that, and
I'll give you a report.
Alright, I've been putting this off for a while, but I'm back under here looking at the transmission for leakage. So on my little electrical fella, there's some trans fluid. It's kind of wet up there. I just don't think I cleaned it off very good. I really hope there's not a leak, because then I'll have to drop the trans. But these bolts all look dry for the most part. I guess that front one's got a little bit of glare, but you see all the trans fluid towards the front here under the pan. There you go, a little bit of pink all the way around, and then up here in this corner it's really bad. Focus. And then all these bolts are wet. This is the side where it's coming from. Initially I thought it was, let's see if I can get them up there. Those, where are we at? Those little fitting fellas up there on the side, you can barely see them. There we go. There we go. Those guys are good. My dipstick is good. It's not leaking, even though the seal is completely shot on it. I'm getting leakage somewhere. And then also back here, where the tail housing or whatever meets up to the rest of the main body of the trans, it's wet as well. And so are these bolts. So I'm not really sure what's going on. Like up there is wet. I think for right now, since the electrical cover doesn't look like it's leaking, those fittings don't look like they're leaking, the servo's not leaking, the thing over here I think I just missed. I'm going to clean it all off, torque it again, drive it around some more, and see what happens. I really don't want to take this out of the car again. But I mean, I'm losing a lot of trans fluid. Like, the puddle is pretty big under the car. So, give that a shot, see what happens. Pretty sure that was it. The overhaul book calls for torquing the bolts to 11.8 foot-pounds. I rounded up to 12 because fractions and decimals are hard. And yeah, wouldn't you know it, all the bolts turned in at least half a turn, the worst of which being that front corner. So I imagine that was it. I'm not a professional. I'm just, again, some guy in a garage. So I do that stuff all the time. And that's why I was kind of hesitant to tear into the transmission anyways. But I'm going to clean it up, put some more trans fluid in it, do some other little goodies while it's in here. And yeah, we'll see if it leaks. I bet you it won't. It's the beginning of January, and it's super cold and snowy here. I tightened up the transpan bolts and ran the car a couple more times in the garage. By the time I got it ready to go, there was already snow on the ground and salt, and I work really hard to make this thing nice, so I don't want to get salt and start dealing with rust and stuff again. I'll just have to wait and see. From what I can see, it appears that was it. It was really as simple as that. I'm pretty fortunate, so that's good. But we'll see when I start tooling it around. This video is already long enough, so this is where I'm going to have to end it. Hopefully this helps somebody. If not, hopefully it's mildly entertaining, or you could just point at me like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. But you know what? I figured it out, that it really wasn't that bad. Was it expensive? Kind of. Was it time consuming? Very. But I learned something, and it was fun. And, you know, that's kind of what it's all about. So, if you made it this far, thanks. Hopefully you'll see more of me. Maybe not. Who knows? Bye.